Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching this content. It's just KJ, and I'm here with my guest, Mr. Jayson Thornton. A little intro about him. He is born and raised Missouri-made. He has made several appearances in CBS, NBC, Fox, Business Insider, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. He is an award-winning financial advisor with certifications being to include the 50 under 50 in Black Financial, 20 under 40 outstanding African-American professionals, the best, the capital BEST wealth advisor for 2026, and the best financial planner of 2025 and 2024, to name a few. But before we even get into the interviews, I just want to clearly spell out and elucidate that the views, comments, gifts, all of the topics here that are discussed are not an endorsement by the Department of War, the Department of Defense, or the Department of Air Force officially. This is just one man who just so happens to be in an Air Force giving an interview. And with that, Mr. Jayson Thornton, I want to thank you first and foremost for joining me for episode 5 of Operation Silver Bullet. I want to hear your story.
Well, yeah, thank you for the invitation. I absolutely appreciate it. When it comes to my story, man, listen, when it comes to life, you have this straight line map between where you start and where you envision yourself going, right? That's what I had in my mind. But that's not how life works out. Yep. Life doesn't follow this straight line path from point A to point Z. There's a lot of detours and a lot of things that ends up happening. Now, you can actually end up where you wanted to go, but it usually takes a little bit longer and there's more adventure to what happens. So when it comes to my story, I am, as you said, born and bred in St. Louis, Missouri. I was blessed to be the son of small business owners, right? So that's been my life. My parents never had like a W-2 job throughout my lifetime. All I knew was, my father owning a scrap metal recycling company, also, some real estate, my mother, managing real estate property and stuff like that. So I don't know the lifestyle of 9 to 5. Growing up also, my parents put me in the position as like a bookkeeper for them, just giving me something to do. I was always really good with numbers. I was always really good with computers. And it just naturally kind of put me in a position to do like bookkeeping stuff. Neither one of my parents went to, college, right? But they were great business owners. But there's certain things that banks and investors and things that they want, right? And my father was really good at doing the math on like the back of an envelope or whatever. But he would then turn the paperwork over to me and was like, hey, I need you to type this up. I need you to make this look presentable. And because I just love computers and whatnot, and I was really good at it, he would be able to give me a document that he got from someone else and say, hey, I need you to recreate this document, computerize, and use these numbers. And that was like my first introduction into bookkeeping and finance. It was just, I could do it. Give me the paperwork, I jump on my computer and I can get it done. And there you go. And he would take these documents to banks and whatnot, and it would work. It's what they wanted. So that was me from elementary all the way through like high school, right? That's the things that I just did. It was just natural for me to get that type of stuff done. Then by the time I got to high school, my life really changed because I really got into sports. I was always a good student, like an honor roll student and whatnot. During middle school, I kind of fell off because I wanted to be with like the cool kids or whatnot. But then when high school hit, and where I'm from, middle school is only like 2 years. Like we don't have like one of those big middle school programs in the area. Yeah. It's like 2 years. So by the time I got to high school and most of my friends were playing sports, I wanted to play sports. And it really had me refocus on, it's like, hey, you got to get good grades, right? You got to be able to stay eligible. You got to do these things. And for whatever reason, man, I really lucked out to be a part of some really special teams, right? Like things that I take for granted, I realized everyone didn't experience, right? I was a part of a team that we ended up taking like second place in state for the football team. I was blessed to be a captain of that football team. We were district champions my senior year, stuff like that. Like to me, it was like, this is the team. Right. But when you talk to other people, it's like, yeah, like my team will look like 2-8, right? Like I don't, to me, I'm like, yeah, man, we're in the playoffs. We're playing in the big game at the end of the year. It's like, that's not everybody's experience. So I was blessed to be on that team. I was blessed to be a captain. And then my wrestling team was actually even more successful than the football team. Like the wrestling team, we went undefeated 3 years in a row. I was blessed to be a big part of that team. And, I won an individual championship, a district championship, team championship, got my picture in the newspaper. And for people who are young, who don't understand how big a deal that was, in the early 2000s, there was no social media, so getting your picture on the cover of the sports section of your local newspaper,
that's a big deal.
Like you was like a superstar at that point. Like when I walked into the school, they had the cutout of it on the wall. Like before I even realized I was featured in the newspaper, they had it on the wall. So like that type of stuff was really impactful. But I say all that to say this: at no point in time did I have the delusion that I was going to be a professional athlete. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, to have the work ethic. But I'm 5'9" at the time, 180 pounds. I wasn't going pro in anything, right? I knew that. Right. And my coaches, they realized that too, of course, but they geared and kind of steered me and said, hey, man, you have these math skills, right? You're really good at math. And you love sports. I mean, we can tell because you were kind of a troubled student the first couple of weeks of high school. But when we got you into sports, you really excelled. You became a leader in the locker room. You became a leader in the classroom. We want to make sure that you continue, because there's a lot of kids that after high school, they really fall off in life because they kind of lose their perspective of who they are, what they want to be. Sports is now functionally over. Right. And they didn't want that to happen to me. So it was like, wait, you can continue in sports on the business side of sports, because they knew I was like doing basic bookkeeping for my father and stuff like that. So it was like, you can do the business side of sports when you go to school. And that kind of piqued my interest. I really like that idea of, being on the business side of sports. And my father encouraged me to make sure that I go to college and study business. So everything was kind of really lining up. And I got scholarships to go play. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to college, I'll play football, and I'll study the business side of sports. And that's ultimately what I ended up doing. I went to college. I got an associate's degree in accounting. Then I got my bachelor's degree in marketing. And those two things put together really kind of focus on either being an agent, right? An athlete agent, or an athlete business major. Okay. And for those of you who don't know the difference between the two, it became very clear. It became very clear for me with, like, I want to say my sophomore year, because we're kind of in the situations like, do you want to go the agent route, or do you want to go the route of the business manager? And one of my classmates made it very clear for me. He said, listen, he was going the agent route. And he told me, after the bachelor's degree, I'm going to go to law school. Yep. You don't have to be a lawyer to be a sports agent. It's just most of the top agents are lawyers. And it's great for the contract negotiation, and it's great for the network. I knew I wasn't going to law school. I knew I wasn't going to law school. So immediately for me, it was like, okay, I'm going the business manager side of it. But the way that they broke it down to me, it was like, listen, the agent goes out and negotiates the contracts and brings the money into the athlete. The business manager's job is to make sure that the athlete doesn't lose the money, that their bills get paid, especially taxes, right? Yep. Bills get paid, taxes get paid, and make sure that you're kind of vetting the things that come through to the client to make sure that the client's not getting ripped off, those type of things, right? So I was like, okay, cool. That makes sense. So I go through the whole program. I'm blessed to be able to do some great internships. I'm blessed to be able to kind of excel in that and get good grades and graduate with honors. And then when I graduate, it's 2006. So I graduate, I come home, and this is like right when the housing market is starting to kick off.
Yeah, right before the housing market bursts.
Right. So at that time, without the social media being where it is, because at that time, Facebook had just came out.
Yep.
Like my senior year in college, Facebook had just came out, and it was still only for college students. So it wasn't a whole lot of networking outside of your immediate college class.
You still had those little the red, white, and blue hot air balloon looking realtor pages,
like,
all those.
All these things was there. So
Yellow pages. Oof.
My ability to network and try to get high network clients was very little, because I wasn't really willing to move. I didn't want to go and be in New York or be in LA. Yeah. I wanted to kind of stay in the St. Louis metro area. But my father, which I believe he kind of knew the whole landscape of how everything was going to break down, he would say, listen, I'm your client. I'll be the client. You come in, and my mind is like, hey, I'm not coming back here to be your bookkeeper again. I was your bookkeeper before I left. Right? What's the point of me going to school?
Right. You got to nudge you out the nest. You got to spread your wings.
Right. Doing all this, I'm not coming back to be your bookkeeper. And he was like, no, you won't be the bookkeeper, right? You'll be my CFO. You'll do more than just run the numbers, but you'll be able to give me the advice and handle this and handle that. And listen, he was 100% correct. 100% correct. Everything that I learned in my college programs for what I thought was training me to become this business manager for high net worth clients actually translated perfectly for me becoming a financial planner for my father. Because, there's the business side, but then there's also the personal side. And a lot of small business owners get lost in understanding that, yes, you have this business, you're being successful in the business, money is coming in, but then what do you do with that money, right? Like, how do you make sure that the money is being used to accomplish your long-term financial goals? And there is a systematic way of being able to make sure you get that done. But if you don't know the system, it can be extremely frustrating. It can, you don't know what to do, right? So I was able to kind of plug directly in with that and help expand the company from where it was when I graduated to where it is today. It's like night and day. So I was blessed to be able to do that. But also there was certain things that I was able to handle that the average person, average bookkeeper would never be able to touch. Like when my parents actually got audited by the IRS. First, it was an audit of the business, and then it was an audit of them personally, right? Because that's normally how when you have a pass-through entity. So when I talk about pass-through entities, there's corporations, they get taxed. Right. But then an LLC or a partnership technically don't get taxed. There is no income tax for a partnership. There is no income tax for an LLC. It gets passed through to the individual owners. So when the company got audited and the IRS hit them with a huge tax bill over $500,000, it wasn't the business that had to deal with it. They had to deal with it personally, right? So I was licensed to be able to represent clients before the IRS. So I took on the case, represented them before the IRS. We kicked back and forth between the IRS and the appeals board for, I want to say, almost 2 years. It was a long case going back and forth. But at the end of the day, I was able to negotiate a deal where we ended up having to pay absolutely nothing in penalties. And the settlement that we did was about $1,400, I think. I think we settled everything for about $1,400. And that really was a spark for me to start, my own practice outside of like what I was doing before, which was basically like a family office. Right. So a family office is basically a wealth management practice that focuses on one family, right? And it's usually high net worth, really like extremely high net worth individuals. But I brought that concept of a family office where it's high net worth athletes, entertainers, company founders, and I kind of brought that to my family, right? My family's small business and my family's individual financial lives. We had like a family office, And at that point, I was like, man, I can really grow this thing with my skill set to take on more clients. And that kind of what birthed the firm. Thornton Financial was kind of birthed out of the fact of I was able to bring an extreme amount of value to my personal family's lives with my financial skills. Let me see if I can, extend my own personal income, right? By bringing on more clients. And my parents had a large network of business associates, people who they met over the years and done business with, who were also facing the same financial issues that they were facing. So they were a great source of referrals that grew this other business that I thought was going to be something that was on the side that actually has taken over and, become an even bigger thing than me being the, financial planner, wealth manager solely for my parents. Now I have this, bigger firm that services people all over the country and some people in other places in the world who reach out to me for financial advice. So that's a really long and winding road to get to where eventually I thought I was going to be. I thought it was going to be a straight line from college to being a financial planner for high net worth individuals. And it really took me a long time to get there and kind of changing my ideas of what I wanted to be. But you still end up there. It's about being really focused on the skill set and the drive to help people, and things just end up working out.
And what advice would you have to someone that is trying to strike out and make their own LLC? Can you break down, because I studied it, but it's always in one ear out the other, the difference between like an LLC versus a corporation versus like another entity?
Yeah, sure. So when we are trying to set up a business, right? You're trying to set up a business and you want to come and figure out what's the best entity to form the business. There's always pros and cons for each one that you pick, right? There is no one golden, that's the one that everyone should do. It's going to be very tailored towards what's your goals, right? And you try to pick the one that checks the most boxes, because there is no one entity style that's going to check all the boxes. So when we're talking about an LLC is a limited liability company that creates a separation between the owner and the company. Because if you just start a company, if you wake up one morning and you want to start a company, you can start a company and get a DBA, right? A doing business as, get a business name. The issue with just getting a business name is there is no separation legally between the owner and the company. It's a sole proprietorship.
Yep.
It is Jayson wakes up one day, I want to start a lemonade stand, Jayson's Lemonade. Okay, I go to the Secretary of State. I get approval to use this business name, Jayson's Lemonade. Now I'm in business. Great. Problem is, I sell my lemonade. Someone chokes on the lemonade. They want to sue the company. Problem is, I am the company.
Yep.
So if I lose that lawsuit, what's going to happen is they can go after my personal asset. They can go after my home, my personal bank accounts. That's an issue, right? There's risk there. I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't want to be an entrepreneur. And now everything that I have is at risk because I want to start a company. So with an LLC, you're able to distinguish and say, yes, this is Jayson's Lemonade LLC. And if you sue me and I lose, everything stops at the lemonade company. You can't come after my personal assets, right?
Right.
So that's a limited liability company. But for tax purposes, right? For tax purposes, the IRS views an LLC as a disregarded entity. A disregarded entity for the IRS just says, you and a lemonade company is the same thing when it comes to taxes. When it comes to civil litigation, they're different.
Right.
But when it comes to taxes, you are the same thing. So that's an LLC. A partnership is any type of business that is owned by more than one person. That's not a corporation, right? So if a company is owned by more than one person, by default, the IRS is going to view that as a partnership. It can be an LLC, but more than one person owns that LLC. By default, the IRS looks at that as a partnership. The issue with a straight partnership that's not LLC is the same issue as the sole proprietorship. There's no separation. The business are the people who own it. And if they get sued, they can be attacked financially, personally. So you create an LLC even for the partnership, right? But then there's the corporation. The corporation gives you a separation for civil litigation, but it also gives you a separation from taxes because the corporation itself pays its own tax. It's a flat rate of 21%, right? So if you make $10,000, you've got $2,100 is going to be taxed. Okay, boom. Here's the problem with that for most small business owners.
Are they making enough income
Yeah, you can get hit with double taxation because the company just paid tax on that $10,000. What happens when you want to use the $10,000 or whatever's left, right? When you want to use that money personally, you're going to be taxed, right? So you can get double tax. So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Most small business owners are probably going to start an LLC, right? That's the first place to kind of start with. But if there is a situation that makes the most sense of saying, hey, I want to be a corporation, because with a corporation, taking on investors is easier because you have these shares, right? And it's easier to take on investors when you have these shares versus taking on investors when you are a sole proprietorship, because immediately the second you take on the investors, you're not a sole proprietor anymore.
Right.
More than one person owns the company. So
and if anything goes awry, everybody's hand is in it.
Right. So at that point, it's really trying to figure out what makes the most sense for the situation. Are you starting a company with the mindset that you are going to take on investors? Then you probably should start it out as a corporation, right? Be it a C corporation or an S corporation. Mm-hmm. But if you are starting the business with saying like, I'm going to own and operate this business and eventually I'm going to scale, you probably want to start out with an LLC at first.
And how exactly does a financial advisor business, thrive and survive? I mean, my industry is very straightforward. I just wake up and do my job. But especially when you're having to network and when you're having to deal with so many different clients, people that have different interests, how exactly do you stand out as a financial advisor? And how do you make your wares, so to speak?
That's a great question, because the industry of giving financial advice has changed so much, really starting in the late 1960s to the early 70s. Prior to like 1970s-ish, financial advice wasn't really financial advice. Financial advice was selling a financial product, right? So they would be stockbrokers. A stockbroker is someone who works for an investment company whose job it is to sell stock, right? The person who they sold stock to wasn't really a client. They were a customer, because ultimately that salesperson, their loyalty wasn't to the customer. Their loyalty was to the company. Same thing with insurance, right? There's insurance agents and they really don't, an insurance agent really doesn't have a client. They have customers, because ultimately their loyalty is to the insurance company. They're trying to sell the product that they have. Same thing if I was on a car lot and I'm selling used cars, right? I'm not there to be the fiduciary for the person walking on the parking lot. Yeah, I'm there to sell a car and earn a commission. There was a movement that started in the late 60s and moved on to the 70s, where it was the financial planning movement. Financial planning was shifting that dynamic and saying, no, I want to be the client's advocate. I'm going to work for the client to give that client the best financial advice for them, and they're going to pay me money for it, which was at that time for retail clients, not talking about the multi-millionaires who already had a financial relationship with an advisor on that level, but talking about working class individuals. They never had a financial advisor that really worked on their behalf. They had financial salesmen and women. And being a certified financial planner where that movement came from in the late 60s, was saying, hey, let's develop a brand new profession where we take on the mindset of being the financial advisors for clients, giving them the best possible advice so that they can meet their financial goals, rather than selling them a product and us getting a kickback or a commission for that product. So the thing that really sets my firm apart is I've never been a salesperson. I've never sold a financial product, right? I've never sold insurance. I've never sold a stock, bond, mutual fund. Everything has been at its core, I'm going to give you advice and I'm going to represent you in financial situations to make sure that your interests are protected. Doesn't matter if I'm representing you before the IRS, if I'm representing you before the bank, trying to make sure that you get the right mortgage. Because here's the issue with a lot of people when it comes to buying their first home. What they don't realize is that mortgage broker, when they tell you how much of a loan you can get, they're not looking into it as what you can actually afford based off your budget. They're looking at it as what can you afford based on your debt to income ratio. Right. And one is much bigger than the other.
And if you default on it, that's on you. That's not on them.
Yeah. They've already got the loan. It's not there. It's not within their financial incentive to make sure, you can, like, at that point, the deal is done. Yeah. So I'm the one that's in there representing the client in financial situations to make sure that their interest is being protected. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that differentiates a financial planner, a financial advisor from a sales rep. And I think that's probably at its core why I have achieved whatever level of success that I can claim. The difference is I'm an advocate for the client. What makes me money is that I am the one that's trying to make sure that the client is achieving their financial goals above everything else. I try to make sure that I have no conflicts of interest. If I give a client a certain recommendation, it doesn't benefit me in any material way. As far as if I say, you need this particular type of insurance. It's not as if I'm going to make money off the fact that they buy insurance. If I tell them that, hey, this is how much money you need to invest per month to make sure you're on track to be able to comfortably retire. I don't make any
residuals off that. So
it's purely, a fee for my expertise. And it's really amazing if you look at the history of it. There are colleges all over this country that has a financial planning discipline in it. It only started in the 60s, right? It started in the 60s. Before that, there was no financial planning education. There was finance, there's accounting, but there was no financial planning. And the major difference that people think is finance. Learning finance in college is not learning how to give people financial advice. Right. Learning finance in college is learning how big organizations finance the operations of their business. You learn about stocks. You learn about bonds, not in the sense of giving advice for retail customers to how to buy it. You learn in the sense of how does the company raise money? They sell stock. They sell bonds. But you have no idea how to give a person advice. It is financial planning, a educational discipline now in hundreds and hundreds of different universities around the world. That now it's amazing. Something that started, a little over 50 years ago is now a staple in society. I tell people all the time, it's amazing when you think about how chiropractors came out in the late 1800s, right? Like the discipline and the study of being a chiropractor happened in like the late 1800s. There's more certified financial planners in this country than there are chiropractors.
But there's tons of kinesiologists and sports medicine people and people that do, different surgeries on different parts of the, different parts of the body. Like you have, a podiatrist versus a cardiologist. So, you're just taking different pieces of the pie, so to speak.
Right. Exactly. And it's trying to change the dynamic of the financial relationship that people have with the person who they trust, helping them solve the issues in their life. A lot of times, when a person is really struggling in their life, there's going to be a financial component to that. Right. Take a situation where you have a family that gets diagnosed with some sort of medical issue. It can be something as minor of they got into a car wreck and now they've got, broken bones or whatnot, and they can't work for a while. It can be something as major as a cancer diagnosis, right? There's a financial component in that. And if they were working with a financial planner, financial advisor that's really looking at their full financial, their life, then there's a possibility that we covered that risk. They have the right health insurance in place that's going to cover that. They have the right, disability insurance where, okay, yeah, you're not going to be able to work for a while, but don't worry, we've got income coming in because you got disability insurance, right? We have the right health insurance that's going to help bridge that gap. If you do get that cancer diagnosis, or even if you pass away, we've got the right life insurance in place where the people who you left behind are not financially struggling. While money does not solve all the problems of a person's life,
it'll insulate you from some. It'll insulate you from some.
Yeah, it can be a big help. And the relationship between a financial advisor and the client is similar to the relationship of a family doctor or a general practice doctor who's able to be your first point of contact when you have a financial problem. They may not be the final solution, right? Like I specialize in tax law. So when a client comes to me, I can diagnose the problem, but I'm also able to help them and represent them before the government to resolve it. But not every financial advisor does that. Like a lot of times we operate as the personal CFOs. They come to us with the issue and then we say, okay, now we're going to hire this tax lawyer who can help, or now we're going to hire this investment advisor who's going to help, or now we're going to make sure we work with this insurance broker who's going to help, so that we are the central hub, the quarterback of what's going on, and make sure that we're guiding that client to ultimately resolve the issue that they're having or reach the financial goal that they're looking for. So making a difference in the financial advice space is making sure that you're no longer just seen as a salesperson for financial products. The products are important, right? But your doctor should not be the salesman or woman of the drug. They should diagnose the problem. And if there is a particular prescription that's going to help resolve the issue, they write the prescription, give it to you, then you go to the pharmacist and buy the drug, right? You don't want the doctor being incentivized by, prescribing a particular drug because it makes them more money.
I'm sure that's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm physically, but financially, no, I'm going to get a kickback off of selling you something. But that's actually a good question I have. Is like, what are the common finance myths or traps that you see people fall into? Of course, not disclosing anyone's information, but what's a common misconception that you see that you have to resolve as a financial planner or financial advisor?
The issues that people have is they think that they need to be making a lot of money to be able to build wealth. That's a problem, right? Really? It's putting off and saying, oh, because I do not make $30,000 a month, there's no need for me to, save for retirement now. Yeah. When I get to that point, I'll be able to save for retirement later. For one, for most people, you'll never get to that point. No. Right? Most people will never make $50,000 a month. Right? It's just, unless it's like high inflation, 200 years from now, something crazy like that, right? Yeah. You're not going to get to that point. The thing that people have to overcome is almost no matter what level of income you are currently at, you can create and have a financial plan that's going to help you reach your goals. I tell younger clients all the time, it doesn't matter if you only have $50 a month to invest. That $50 a month now, when you're 18, 21, is going to grow. And as that money grows from $50 a month to $150 to $300 to $1,000, that's going to help you out. The problem is you can't just turn it on.
Right.
Financial discipline is not a light switch that you can just say, oh, okay, now that I'm making more money, I'm going to be financially disciplined. That's not a reality.
No, it's a false.
It's like a muscle, right? I was never a gamer, right? I kind of talked earlier about my, athletic success in high school. I wasn't a gamer. I wasn't someone who, okay, it's game time. Now I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to become this great performer. I was the person who would stay after a little later in practice. I would wake up a little early before school. I had to constantly be preparing myself for the game or for the wrestling match, right? I was constantly preparing myself, because if you do try to jump out and do something that you never practiced before,
you're going to hurt yourself.
You can absolutely hurt yourself, because muscles have to be warmed up. There's muscle memory, right? So when you actually get in the game, it feels natural because you practice it so much. The way that kind of ties back to finance is this. If you are not financially disciplined to be able to put $50 a month away, either in a emergency savings fund or to invest, when you start to gradually make more money and make more money, your financial discipline doesn't go up. It flatlines, it stays the same. So now that you do have $250 extra at the end of each month, that money is already spoken for, because you have these bad spending habits. And because you have these bad spending habits when you make little money, you're going to have bad spending habits when you make big money. So that's a myth that needs to go away. You need to start working with what you got now.
I've been saying that for years, because people talk like all the celebrities, like, how could somebody lose, $50,000? I was like, same way somebody could lose, same way somebody could lose $5.
Very, very easy. That's exactly
it's
how it
larger
happens.
Scale. It's just that on a larger scale. You have a bad night.
You
have a bad night in Vegas. You have a bad night in Vegas. The tables don't treat you right.
Yeah,
it's like
the person who gambles 10% of their income, right, and they make $50,000 a year, but the person who makes $50 million, they still gamble 10%. It's like it's all about the scale, and that's why you have to start early. Got to start early so that when the money starts coming in, you're used to it. 15, 20% of my money goes towards saving and investing. That's just automatic. So now that I, graduate and I'm making, $60,000 a year, but then 5-10 years down the road, I'm making $300,000 a year. I'm used to it. It's not a big deal.
Because I read, when I was doing my things and stuff, I read a couple books. I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then The Richest Man in Babylon. And I was like, The Richest Man in Babylon is just like, it's like the art of war, but for finances. It's like the most simple proverbial lessons that yield the best return. And then for the Kiyosaki, I was thinking about Rich Dad Poor Dad. That speaks more to like building more wealth and being more of like a business person rather than someone that works for a designated income. But a lot of it really is just, as I say it all the time, simple math.
Yeah. So yes, but here's the thing. I tell people all the time, there's a difference between simple and easy, right?
Okay.
Simple just means it's not complex. Doesn't mean it's easy. Right? I tell people, what does it take to get into shape? Right? I just ask a general question. What does it take? If a person is out of shape, if a person is morbidly obese, what advice would you give that person to get in shape? Generally, across the board, young, old, whatever, they give me the same answer, right?
Move more.
They need to eat less, work out more, right? They need to burn more calories than they take in. No matter how you say it, it's usually the same answer. And they are 100% correct. Yes, in order to get into shape, you need to be more active. You need to burn more calories than you take in. Then I follow up with this question. Then why is there an epidemic of people who are out of shape? If it's if it's that simple, right? If it's that simple, why is it so hard for people to get in shape? Because simple does not automatically mean easy.
Right.
You need something in between there to help motivate, coach, and guide the person to do what they want to do to reach that goal. That's why personal trainers will never go out of style, in a sense, no matter how much AI is out there.
Yeah.
Right? You need someone that's going to get in that person's face. And I experienced this in sports. I was a self-starter. I could wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning before school, run a couple of laps, get there, take a shower, then go to school. I didn't need coach to tell me that. The reason why I was a self-starter is that I knew that there was someone behind me who was actually more talented than me, who wanted to take my spot. In wrestling, it's different from football.
Yeah.
In football, you can kind of hide behind coach, right? In wrestling, every week, or it felt like every week, you can challenge. And I love that about the sport.
Yep.
You can challenge. If you were the backup guy, right? So I wrestled 171 and 160 in high school. I started out at heavyweight. I was a big kid freshman year, but then I slowly got in better shape because I wanted to win. In wrestling, you can challenge. You can tell the coach, hey, the guy that you got in front of me, I can beat him. And I'm going to beat him. And when I beat him, I have his spot. Doesn't matter how much you like me or you don't like me.
Right.
Which in football, unless you're really better than a kid, a coach can really manipulate the lineup, right?
Yeah.
You can't really do that.
I mean, I was a boxer, so they say boxing or wrestling, they're the loneliest sport. They're the loneliest sport ever because when it's game time or when it's action time, it's literally you and the other person.
It's just you.
And
right?
the difference between getting, pinned on your back or getting knocked out is it's all on you. I mean, the cornerman can tell you what to do, but your health is on you.
You're out there and you've got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So that mentality of there is a kid who's more talented than me, more athletically gifted than me, and he's gunning for my spot. He wants my spot. And you know what? Coach actually likes that kid more than he likes me, right? I had to do the extra, right? I had to make sure that I was better conditioned, make sure that I had more sound technique to beat the kid on my own team that wanted my spot, let alone the kid from the other school, right? Everyone's not like that. I would look around the team and realize, like, you're going to get replaced. Like, if you don't do this, you're going to get replaced. And it would always happen. I'd be like, the new kid is now standing next to me because he was thinking that the coach was going to protect him. The coach is trying to put out the best team no matter what, right? Everyone's not like that. Most people will do the least amount of work and expect the greatest reward. It's just the natural thing that
they're trying to hit the stock market. That's what it is.
Yeah, they want the least amount of effort, but they want the maximum reward, right? And that's just not how life works. So they need someone to motivate them to do what needs to be done. And the point that I'm trying to make is education by itself does not change a person. Education can help, but without application, it doesn't matter. All of the wealth of knowledge that we have now, in the world of finance, they used to be able to make their money because they were informational gatekeepers. They knew information about the market that the average person did not know. And they were able to sell that information to the client. That's not a reality now. All the information is out there. But why is there so many people who have bad financial habits? Why are there so many people who have little to nothing saved for retirement if the information is out there? They need someone to make it, one, a reality in their life because, people know, planes fly, right? Yeah. People can hop in a plane and fly. Most people don't know the aerodynamics of why the plane flies. Because in their mind, look at this huge,
they don't know the difference
tons
between IFR
and
or
tons
VFR.
of metal, right? How does it fly? They don't know the science behind it. They just know it works, right? You have to worry about all the other stuff of making it work, right?
Sometimes they don't realize how close they are to things not working, because, you know, being in the C2 stuff, I'm just like, man, and I go to commercial airliners, I'm just like,
all of that, right? You've got to manage all of that and make it so where it's the most seamless experience for them, that they don't even know what's going on. They just know they are able to get from point A to point B the way that they want it. They don't know all of the craziness that's going on.
They don't know that ATC is on fire. The ATC is on fire 24/7.
They don't know that. So that's why when it comes down to making a difference, when it comes down to standing out among your peers, are you willing to put in the extra work that it takes? And then what motivates you to do that, right? I'm an extremely competitive person, right? I'm not so much of an athlete now that I was in high school, but that competitiveness, right? That drive to be a winner, that drive to be better than the competition is still deep inside of me. And because of that, I just translated from athletic success to financial success in the lives of my clients. The more my clients reach their financial goals, the more wins I have in the column. The more times I go up against the IRS, right? And I win, right? My client's able to, get a payment arrangement and their homes are not foreclosed on, right? Things like that are wins for me, and it motivates me to keep going, which sets me apart from competition. So it comes down to what motivates you in life. And this is just what motivates me.
Yeah. And who has been a mentor or a helper to you in this landscape? Because family is exceptionally important. It seems like you were very blessed to have family members that worked hand over fist, as someone in my family, says all the time, because I understand a little bit of that entrepreneurial side. But who has been like a mentor or a helper to you? And the second part of that is, if it's not a person, what tools or resources have been valid resources to gain the knowledge? Because we are kind of in the age of information. I say we're in the age of absurdism, because there's so much information, but we're trying to parse what's good information versus what's just chaff, as we say.
Right. Well, but like, as you said, so I was blessed to have a father who was a businessman. He was my hero, looked up to him. Like, you got to understand, he was 6'4", 300 and something pounds, right?
All right, John Henry.
I was 5'9", right? 5'9".
We get it. Your dad was John Henry. We get it.
He's a huge guy. So he was a mentor of mine, of course. And then coaches that I had was mentors. Even when I had my internship, where, my father was able to help me kind of get my internship as well, because the accounting firm that I did my internship with was the firm that, held his account. So, working with individuals who really looked out for me, I was blessed to be a part of the National Association of Black Accountants. There were a lot of mentors there. We were able to do, clinics, right? Tax preparation clinics, where you work with the elderly and the low income in your community to help them with their tax issues and problems of that nature. And I had a lot of mentors with that. So joining groups and associations that are within your field, you'll probably be able to find people, as long as you're willing to help, right? If you're out there, you're willing to help, and you are inquisitive, you have a mind of wanting to know more about the profession, you're probably going to attract people who are going to see that your drive to, excel within the profession. They're going to want to help that. They're going to want to help guide that career. So that's where it's been with me. But the number one mentor in my life has always been my father.
It's amazing. And what resources or tools do you believe are effective in trying to gain the knowledge? Because there is what we call, a will issue versus a skill issue. And sometimes there might be a will issue, but there might be a skill issue.
When you're striving to do something and the skill isn't there yet, Practice is always going to overcome that. A skill can be learned over time. You have to have the drive to go through failure. I think that's probably one of the things that popular culture plays down way too much, as if the winners of this world have never experienced failure. A lot of people go unfulfilled. They live lives of regret because of their fear of failing. Their fear of failing blocks them from the success that they ultimately want to have. If a person really wants to be successful, you have to put away your fear of looking silly, your fear of not achieving what you want to achieve. A person with no fear of looking goofy, and I'm gonna give you an example. So I had a friend, and still have a friend, who had no fear of being turned down by a girl. And I'm talking about during the days of no DM. See, guys can be such cowards with social media. With social media, you can be a coward, meaning you can see a pretty girl on social media and DM her, and if she doesn't DM you back or she ignores you,
fire and forget.
There's no repercussions for that, right? That you could just do that. I grew up in a world where when you wanted to approach a girl, you had to do it face to face, at the mall, at school, wherever it was, wherever you saw that person, you had to approach them, because number one, if you don't approach them, there's a good chance you'll never see them again. Right? Unless they were within your network, meaning they went to the same school, they worked at your job or something like that. If they were just passing you by at a restaurant, at a mall or something like that, there was a very good possibility that you will probably never see that person again. So you would have to walk up to them, introduce yourself to them, tell them that you were interested in them and wanted to get their contact information. Maybe y'all could do something later. You would get rejected on the spot. Not only get rejected on the spot, most likely you were with your friends at the time. And if you're with your friends at the time, you got to walk back to your friends.
Hey man, Jim is over there.
the fear of that and anxiety, like that was like, oh my God. There's so many times where I was like, I'm not even going to, nope, not going to do it. Because I did not want, but I had a friend and still have a friend who he didn't care. He got turned down so much. But I don't even remember most of the times that he got turned down. I remember the times where he got accepted. I remember all the times where he came back with a phone number, right? All the times that he came, because he did not fear the rejection. He was more focused on the goal. It's like a Kobe Bryant mindset.
Carpe diem. Seize the day.
Stop focusing on what happens if you miss the shot. You got to put up the shots to score. There's a lot of people where there's a debate when it comes to who's the greatest of all time in basketball. The reality is there is no greatest of all time. It's based on your era. But those people who are, ride or die forever Jordan fans, they don't realize Jordan was winning those scoring titles because he took the most shots. He also missed the most shots. When you look at the stats, he missed a lot of shots. He would go down as one of the top people who missed. But because he didn't have a fear of missing, that's why he won a lot of the scoring titles.
We call that accuracy by volume. That's what we call it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But in that vein, it's actually another tangential question have you ever seen a financial miracle or disaster, and how did it resolve? Have you ever seen someone just come back from, I don't know, maybe a bankruptcy or something horrible, or have you seen somebody, have it and then lose it, and how did that resolve?
The way that the people who can bounce back from a financial disaster in their life, I can almost dictate it based on how they achieve the success in the first place. Okay? Mm-hmm. If you achieve financial success based off of luck or based off of chance and not financial discipline, the possibility of you coming back is low. For example, athletes and entertainers.
Lottery curse.
An athlete or an entertainer is going to achieve an extreme level of financial success in a very short amount of time. Okay? Short window to get a lot of money coming in. You can't think about that actor who's making $10 million a year for the 10 years. Most people, they have like a 3 to 5 year window of making really, really good money. I want to know, how responsible were they financially with the little they had before that money came in? I can tell you if they're going to be successful to be able to rebound. People who are financially sound on the way up, when they go down, they'll come back up. But there are some people who are like lottery winners. Lottery winners are notorious for being financially irresponsible because it took no financial responsibility to achieve it. If it takes no financial responsibility to achieve wealth, then there's a good chance that you will not be able to replicate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you don't value what it's actually worth because you didn't put in the amount of effort that it takes to generate that amount of wealth to begin with.
Right. And it's talking about, and I'm specifically talking about the management of it, right? An athlete or an entertainer is putting in an extreme amount of effort to earn the money, right? Extreme amount of effort, but to manage it, that's the difference, because you have a short window of being able to make that type of money. There's a short window of your athletic ability. And when that athletic ability goes and you do not have that opportunity to make millions of dollars playing a kid's game anymore, you still have a drive, but it's like, how do we get back there, right? So it just comes down to the financial stability of the person before or gaining that financial stability during. But when everything's going and you're trying to rebuild, it really comes down to, can I take the discipline in one area of my life and put it into finance? Because a lot of people spend money emotionally. They don't spend money like robots, right? They don't spend money based off, okay, all I need is X amount of expenses in my life, and I'm going to spend that. When people feel sad, they spend money. When people feel happy, they spend money. A lot of times it's just a relationship with the money that has to be changed. And if you're able to successfully change your relationship with money, if you realize that money is the fuel to achieve your goals rather than money being the goal itself. You'll probably turn out okay.
Okay. And are there any short-term or long goals that you have with your LLC? Do you have any plans to expand it or keep it as it is? I mean, you've been in the game for a while, but I mean, there's always a next rung on the ladder to climb, so to speak.
I wrestle with this a lot because I get a lot of offers of people wanting to invest in the company, want to become partners, want to really scale it and do all these things. At its heart, it's a family business for me. My hopes is that my kids will integrate themselves in different ways into this business. I'm somewhat of a control freak as well, and giving up any type of control. Like I don't sit around and have meetings about what I'm going to do with my brand. Right. I can have a dream one night and wake up the next morning and implement whatever was in that dream. I can't give that up to be like, oh, hey guys, I had this dream last night that I was going to do this. What do y'all think? Like, I don't do that. Right.
You have your own autonomy.
Right. But there are certain other avenues where I have plans within the next 10 to 15 years. I really try to think things out. I plan things really far out. So I do have certain goals and things that I'm really going with like the media side of the brand, the Pocket Watcher LLC, the YouTube channel. There's things and that I want to kind of go with that. There's this whole Dave Ramsey type of personal financial help that I want to make sure that I implement within that side of the brand that I have goals for. And, I'm really excited about the possibilities with that.
Yeah, we talked about, PMP, a lot of this, the independent, content creator thing is starting to be like the new wave now. And that's actually going to be tangentially related to the next question is there anything in the current financial world that either excites you or concerns you? And I mean, things like AI, this market innovation, cryptocurrency, which is something that I still don't fully understand, no matter how many times my friends explain it to me. Everyone's concerned about inflation. Everyone's concerned about the market. If you're reading the tea leaves in terms of the financial world, what is something that stands out to you?
What concerns me more than the things that excite me, what concerns me are these companies that are presenting gambling as investing.
Yep.
Gambling is always something that the working class community has a weird love affair with because they do not have the faith in the financial system that they can get rich slow. The only way that they can get rich is fast. It has to be some sort of jackpot. It has to be some sort of, I invest in this company, then the company 1,000 X's, and now I can finally be wealthy. And when you have these platforms now that are basically gambling sites, but they present themselves as investment contracts, Polymarket, and all these things like
prediction
that.
Markets. People are making bets on world events.
They concern me because first it was the wave of legalized sports betting with
DraftKings.
With the fantasy sports.
Yeah.
And then when it went from just fantasy sports to you could just straight up bet on the games now, right? And then with the prediction markets, it concerns me because once again, the average person wants the maximum reward for the minimum amount of effort. And people say, well, what's the harm? I'm only doing a couple $100 or whatever a month.
That's how it starts.
But what they don't realize is that same amount of money compounded over your working life would probably allow you to reach your retirement goals. But because you kept swinging for the home run every single time, you missed the easy base hit that would have got your team to win. And that concerns me.
So it's more of like a relation on how people treat money versus like the money itself.
Yeah.
Because I think that could contribute to why so many people have, financial issues.
Yeah. And the thing about it is these companies aren't even profitable yet, right? So just think about that. You're throwing away millions and millions of dollars as a group, obviously not as individuals, but they're throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars towards these basically gambling sites to gain wealth. The companies themselves aren't even profitable yet, right?
And wait till the regulations come in, because I bet you those floodgates are going to close real quick once it starts pissing off the wrong people.
We would like to hope, but the issue is it's addictive, right? They gamified it in a sense where now it's so addictive. You have kids who are addicted to these gambling sites that are going to destroy them financially in the long term. So me presenting a very basic, simple, not easy, but simple financial plan and structure for people, they're like, who wants to do that? I'd rather bet on this. I'd rather invest in this contract that's going to make me a millionaire. And I'm trying to tell you, it's like, you can get there, but you got to be disciplined to do it. And there has to be a movement towards showing the disciplined individual wins out in the end. You just have to go through that struggle. If you're unwilling to go through the struggle of being disciplined, even if wealth drops in your lap, you'll lose it.
Right. And earlier I asked a question about mentorship, and you also, mentioned networking. I feel like those are subtle qualities that would insulate people from making a lot of the more riskier decisions, is if you have someone else, because I think there's a little bit of a comparison being the thief of joy, where you're trying to compare yourself to someone else, but you don't realize that you're more alike than you are different. You're not trying to get one up on each other. And if you took, you took someone that has a hammer, then you took someone else that makes a nail, well, eventually you'll be able to build a house.
Yeah. But the other side of it is this. A lot of people are comparing themselves to a lie, right? When you're comparing yourself to reality, that's bad enough, right? The thief of joy. You're comparing yourself to reality is tough. But when you're comparing yourself to a lie, that's even worse, because you're trying to emulate something that is not real. A lot of people on social media who are showing off the rewards of their great financial advice, this, that, other. It's like when you realize that all of it was a lie, and they were renting the house, they were renting the car, just so that they can sell a book or sell coaching classes and all this stuff, that just a popular way of the fake guru online. When you realize that, dang, even if I followed everything this person said to a T, I would never achieve that, because they never even achieved that in their life. That's a problem, right? That's an issue. They are creating a false reality for people to dream after and go after, that even when they get there, they realize the whole thing was fake to begin with. How much time and how much energy and effort was lost between the point of them starting to the point where they realized they were in a grift. I get this a lot from clients who were involved in multi-level marketing schemes for an extended period of time, right? By the time they come to me, they realize that it was a delusion. They realize that they were never going to achieve whatever the person who recruited them into the multi-level marketing scheme said that they were going to do. But we're talking, for some people, tens of years, like 10, 15 years of their life that they spent chasing this dream of this multi-level marketing company. And now they're trying to pick up the pieces, and now they're living with a lot of regret, because it's like, man, I probably could have went to night school during that time or became a real business owner. I probably could have just worked a regular job and made X amount of money. They feel as if they threw their life away during that time. And in a sense, they kind of did.
I mean, time is money and money is time. I think about how much money you made in those 10 years that you ended up.
It's like, and it's really coming down to the point of there has to be some sort of guardrail for the impressionable person who does not understand the financial system, to show them, hey, listen, what this person is selling you is a dream. It's not a reality. You're not going to get there like this. It's so silly for a person to think that just because they see something on a computer screen or the screen on their phone, on their timeline, that, oh, I can get that by wanting it enough. Wanting something is just the start. The question is, are you willing to go through the hard work and the struggle to get it? And most of the time, the answer is no. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be really honest with yourself and say, am I willing to go through this struggle? It's like when I was in school. Right. When I was in school and I was at that breaking point, it's like, do I become a sports agent or a business manager? And when they said, oh, well, yeah, most of the top business agents go to law school, I was honest with myself. I didn't want to go to law school. I didn't want to go through the LSAT, those extra 3 years. I was honest with myself. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go the business manager route, because that's not what I want to do. And I see value over here. I'm going to do this. the worst thing you could do is lie to yourself, take the LSAT,
spend
go
all
to
that
law
money,
school,
you
fail, right?
not pass the
Because
bar.
you should have known you weren't willing to put in that work. You didn't fail because you weren't smart enough. You failed because that's not what you wanted to do. You weren't willing to make that sacrifice. If you're not willing to make that sacrifice, pivot to something that you are willing to make that sacrifice for and be happy with the choice that you made. I'm not a believer in equal outcomes. Equal outcomes is the worst thing that you can put on the mind of a person. You are not guaranteed an equal outcome. You should only be guaranteed an equal opportunity. There will always be levels of success. Always. The question is, what level of success are you willing to sacrifice for? And when you're honest with yourself, you'll probably be more happy with your reality. Most people live in the delusion that they can and are willing to achieve the utmost of levels of success, but it's because of some external force of why they didn't get there. Most of the time, you didn't get there because you weren't willing to put in the work, and that's okay, because that's only reserved for very few people. Very few people. And if you're willing to put in that work and put in that grind and fail and be okay with it, then fine. But you can't fail and then be, licking your own wounds. That's the bargain you made at the beginning. At the beginning, you should have known there's a strong possibility that I may fail. Okay, I'm still willing to do it. Most people aren't, and they need to stop fooling themselves.
Okay. And we're almost at the hour and 15-minute mark, so we're going to get close to the wrap up. So for the final couple of questions is, can you please plug your socials when anyone can come find this wisdom at?
Sure, absolutely. So probably the easiest way to reach me, if you just go online for my firm, Thornton Financial, ThorntonOffice.com, Thornton-Financial.com. Most of my social network stuff is around the Pocket Watcher brand, my YouTube channel, Instagram, stuff like that. If you just type in, not a lot of people is using the term pocket watcher. That's probably one of the reasons why I took that on for the brand, because it's an easy way to get straight to me. If you go pocket watcher, I thought you were selling chronographs for a second. So if you go the Pocket Watcher on any social medias, the podcast, all your podcast platforms, you put in Pocket Watcher, you're probably going to find my stuff.
Right. And the final question is, I ask everyone this question, whether it's a serious interview or more of a cultural interview, is plus or minus one thing to either add to or take or subtract from your life that would advance your goal or increase your station in life. What would it be? Most people usually say money, but since this whole conversation has been about money, I'm taking that one off the table. They usually say either more money or take away my debt, but I'm taking that off the table.
Matt, for me, at the stage that I'm in life,
yes,
time. I just want more time, right? Whatever it is, I want more time.
Well, time is money, and money is time, so that's kind of cheap.
But here's what I'm saying with that. My father taught me that a man, more men than traditionally women, a man either has time or money. Meaning, when you're young, you have a lot of time, but not a lot of skills. You don't have a lot of resources, but you have time. You have to use that time to gain the resources, use that time to gain the money. Then when you're in the middle of your career, you probably have more money than you have time. There's certain things and certain situations that I can't participate in because I have these responsibilities. And because I have these responsibilities and I'm unable to be in multiple places at the same time, I'm willing to give my money, right? I'm a part of a fraternity, right? Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. There's certain things that my local chapter does with volunteer work. There's certain things I can't be there for. So you know what I do? I'll write the check because I can't be there, but I have a heart for it. I'm going to write that check, right? But I wish I had more time. So when I get to the third stage of my life in retirement, when you do everything right, you have both. You have the money now and you have the time to really enjoy that money and spend it with your family. So for me, it's not just, okay, give me an extra 30 years to my life, but it's giving me the wisdom to understand there are times where my competitiveness needs to be dialed back, because my competitiveness will keep me up working on a project or doing something instead of taking the time to do things that may not seem super important, but it's the quality time with the people who I love, right? So it's really asking for the wisdom, adding to my life the wisdom of knowing it's time for me to be less competitive. It's time for me to spend more time with my family. Once again, it's that drive of understanding the difference of money is not the goal. It's what that money can do in ultimately achieving the financial goals is what it's for. And when you are ultra competitive, when you are a high achiever, I have a lot of clients who have a problem understanding that their life goes in stages and you need to recognize what stage you're in. So I'm really asking for the wisdom to understand I need to realize what stage I am in. And it's not about me achieving. How can I help the people who I love and be in their lives more?
That's profound. Well, thank you, sir. You answered all my questions, and I thank you for taking this hour and 15 minutes on your wonderful Tuesday. I'd like to conclude this episode of Operation Silver Bullet out here.